We're actually celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. And so all of our resources are available at no charge to people that live within DuPage County. For additional information about us, you can always check out peoplesrc.org. Just some basic guidelines. Please mute yourself for better sound quality overall. You can turn your video on if you want to. As Matt mentioned, we're being recorded. Um, if you want, you can put your questions in the chat or you can hold on to them until we're done. Here's just some guidelines to see use side-by-side mode for better viewing. Um, and because this is being recorded, everything is not confidential, but once we stop recording, any of your questions will remain with us. And I went. So are you LinkedIn? How to leverage the social networking site LinkedIn to enhance your job search and create results. So before we kind of dive in to LinkedIn, let's just talk about some terminology. So social networking is the use of applications to interact with others to find people with similar interests. Social media are websites and applications that enable users to create and share content or participate in social networking. So what we're talking about is social networking. People can do that through Facebook, Instagram, but we're specifically going to be talking about LinkedIn. Um, so I know people get scared about the word networking. When I was in college, networking was like getting dressed up in uncomfortable clothes and going to like the Hilton and having like a name tag on and talking about yourself or what you want. But it is simply the act of meeting people and getting to know people, generally who kind of want to help you, or who have information that can help you. And people do it informally every day. And social media has the amazing ability to expand your ability to network exponentially. Um, so what is LinkedIn? So it was officially launched in 2003. It was acquired by Microsoft in 2016. It's the number one work-based social networking site. And it's the 22nd most visited website in the world. I actually think that number is probably a bit higher. And who uses it? Individuals, job seekers, businesses, companies, recruiters. They have over 1 billion members across 200 countries. 52 million users looking for jobs weekly. 70% of recruiters look for a LinkedIn profile. So often when people go, do I really need a LinkedIn profile? Yes, because people are looking at it. They want to know, who are you connected with? Kind of what information do you have? Why people use LinkedIn: to promote themselves and their achievements, to network, to share content, and to find a job. Um, so only 15% of available jobs are ever advertised, meaning the other 85%, and I actually think maybe that number is a little higher, maybe like 90% of jobs can really only be found through networking. 70% of secured jobs are found through networking. 64% of recruiters rate referred candidates as highly qualified. People often ask, well, why is that? And think about it in your own life when you're trying to maybe find out information on maybe a service that you want to buy, or maybe you're going to switch, phone services or something like that, something really basic. You generally ask people that you know, right? You ask people that you trust, hey, do you know anybody that is a good plumber? Or, hey, I want to switch phone carriers. Who do you use? And do you have a good experience, right? That's one tiny aspect of networking. People do that on a much broader scale when looking for a job. And so people want to talk with people that other people they know and trust already know and trust. And so that's why networking is so important. That's why networking is kind of the secret sauce of job searching. And that's how LinkedIn can help you advance in networking, and engaging with people who are wanting to hire you. Um, so create a LinkedIn account. So, normally at the top, you can go to, you can either, if you're already signed, you can sign in or you can join now. They're generally going to ask you for an email address and a password. You can also like sign in through like Apple and Google. So there's multiple ways to engage with a LinkedIn account. And it's pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. They're going to walk you through that. It can look like this. I just looked at it this morning. It looks a little bit different. Um, but it's generally what this looks like, and you can continue with Facebook again through like Apple or Google. There's multiple ways to sign into a LinkedIn account. That can be easy, and straightforward. So creating your LinkedIn profile, you do want to upload a professional photo. So this is where it's a little bit different than a general resume where you're not going to want a photo up there. With LinkedIn, you are going to want a photo. People tend to look at profiles that have photos more than people that don't have photos. You want to add your industry and location. You want to write a headline and a summary. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Um, you can customize your LinkedIn URL, so it'll give you like it'll kind of self-generate one for you. You can actually go in and edit that to be like your first initial last name, so when people are looking for you, they can find you. It'll verify that that's a unique URL to you. You're going to want to describe your work experience. You want to add three or more skills, and you can list your education, certifications, organizations. You want to try to connect with at least 50 contacts, and you want to turn on, like, let recruiters know that you're open. The more information that you fill out, the more robust profile you have on LinkedIn, the better, the easier it is to connect with others. And so this is kind of what this can look like. It doesn't have to be a formal photograph. It can just be a nice photograph that somebody took of you. You can add a headline. You can include your location, and then you want to write a real basic summary. And if you're looking at that going, oh my gosh, I'm really overwhelmed by the idea of kind of writing a summary. I don't even know what to say about myself. People and organizations like Matt at the library, myself, can help you kind of figure out how do I write some of this information down. There's like LinkedIn workshops and intensives that you can engage with. But you do kind of want to fill all of that information out. Pretty basic. There's also a photo behind the gentleman that you can put in. They also have kind of dummy photos that you can put in. So kind of the more robust that you fill it out, the better and more engagement you're going to have. This is how you would kind of customize your LinkedIn URL. So you have kind of a unique internet address called a URL through LinkedIn. You should put that on your resume. People are going to click on it to kind of find out more information about you. And so up there in the corner, you can say edit public profile and URL. And then you can change it to be either your first name and your last name, or kind of however you want to be presented so that people can easily kind of click and find you. You do want to describe your work experience. So you can start by copying over your information from your resume, but you want to have even more information. I sometimes get this question of, well, should I include things that, are maybe older than what I would have on my resume? Or should I include connections that I have or information from when I went to high school or things like that? Absolutely. We can talk a little bit more about that, and I'll explain why. And so when you're filling out information for your resume, you kind of want to use kind of a situation, action, result approach. So, in what are the keywords that you're kind of wanting to highlight about yourself? So, you can talk about different situations. So he talks about I provided a variety of business solutions to clients looking to increase profitability in a multitude of industries, right? What was the situation? What was the action? What's his intended results, right? You want to think about it in those ways. You should add skills. It can also be considered like keywords, and you can find that at the bottom. You want to prioritize based on relevance to your occupation or the field that you want to go into. The more listed, the greater chance of matching search criteria. So you can list up to 50 skills, but they're not necessarily going to be in alphabetical order. I would put them in order of what you want people to know about you. So clearly, this person, their focus is on like social media and media engagement because they've got social media marketing, visual marketing, blogging, social media, Facebook marketing. All of those things are kind of their top skills they want somebody to know about them. And they've kind of organized it in that way. So some of this can be a little daunting where you're like, well, I'm not really sure kind of what occupation that I'm interested in, or maybe what field I want to go into. And so, reflecting even a little bit before you start some of this process can be helpful. But if you're not sure, you can just kind of start going, well, I know these are the skills that I'm good at or the skills that I want to use in my next position. You can certainly start with that. Endorsements can be really helpful. So an endorsement is a one-click way for your connections to verify the skills listed on your profile. So anyone can say that you possess a particular skill, but having endorsements proves it. So this is where, think of it like a little mini, like, I don't know, Yelp review or something like that, where someone that has worked with you says, yeah, you're highly skilled at this, or you were exceptional at helping me solve this problem, or your marketing campaign for, our department was amazing. So it's where someone that knows you and has worked with you can kind of speak to your capacity and your ability to accomplish something. You can request recommendations. So if you think, hey, there's people that can really speak to my capacity, you can ask them to kind of recommend you. And so you can select the intended recipient in your contacts field. You can write a personal message stating why you want to receive an endorsement, and then you click send, right? So on here it says, hi, Sydney, I'm working on building my profile and was wondering if you would write a recommendation of my work. I would really appreciate it and can draft a recommendation for you as well. All the best, right? And most people, if will say sure if they can speak to that. If it's somebody that you worked really closely with, that can speak to your experience, most people are willing to kind of help you out in that way. You can also kind of upload your resume instead of maybe just filling it out through copy and paste. So you can click on the pencil edit icon at the top right corner of the experience section. Scroll down to the media section, click upload, select your resume. You can add a title and description, click apply, and then click save to return to your profile. You may want to just double check if it's going to take information from your resume that it kind of did it in the way that you want, and that it looks how you want it to look. But that can kind of save time, and you can kind of load that right in. So, how do you kind of make your profile stand out? You may want to consider adding things like certifications or professional licenses, volunteer experiences, organizations that you have belonged to or belonged to in the past. So, with LinkedIn, you can have kind of a more robust selection of contacts and networks than maybe you would have represented on your resume. So for myself, I have things from previous colleges that I went to or jobs that I did a really long time ago that I wouldn't necessarily have on my resume, but I have as part of my network on LinkedIn because, people kind of shift positions, shift industries, and if they know you, right, then you can kind of reach out to them and say, hey, I know that we worked together previously doing X, Y, and Z, but now that I see you're in a different field, can you tell me more about that? So it can be kind of a more robust collection of who you know than what would necessarily be represented on your resume. So I know people that have talked on their LinkedIn profile about maybe they run marathons or maybe they've, done intensive hiking expeditions and they put some of that information on there because all of that helps kind of fill you out as a human being and helps people know some of your capacity and engagement. So, you can add yourself to different groups. Alumni associations are always a good thing to add. If you're not connected to an alumni association and you have an alumni association you can be connected to, that's always a good thing. LinkedIn is really good at recommending um, uh, places for you to add groups that you should be connected to. So that's, one way to do that. And then some people go, well, how do I add a connection? It's just as easy as searching. And we'll talk about kind of first, second, and third degree connections. But you can kind of search in the search box. It's going to ask you periodically, do you want to import personal contacts? And you can kind of learn more about the privacy settings around that. But that can be a really easy way to kind of, especially when you're getting started, to kind of go, okay, well, these are the people I'm connected with. How do I connect with them on LinkedIn in a fairly straightforward way? You can do it in that way. So first and second level and third degree connections. So first level connections are the people that you know directly. Second level connections are people that are friends of friends, and third level connections are people that are, um, people that you don't know or people that are connected to the second level connection. And so how should you connect with someone you don't know, i.e. a recruiter? So you can check for their email address on their profile or the internet. If there's no information, you can connect, choosing connect. This is the number one way, and I'll talk a little, I have an example of what this looks like. You can ask somebody to connect you. So if you have a first level connection to somebody or a second level connection to someone, and you realize, hey, they know these other people, you can ask them to connect you. That can be scary. We can talk a little bit more about what that looks like. Or you can send in mail, which is a premium membership benefit. And you'll see the different icons of what level of connection you are to somebody. So here's a kind of basic LinkedIn message for someone that you don't know well. So it could be, hi, I came across your profile and noticed that we share an interest in, that industry or field. I'm exploring opportunities in this area. I would appreciate connecting with you. If you're open to it, I'd love to ask you a few quick questions or hear a bit about your experience at your convenience. So that's something really basic that you could send out. Think about for yourself, if someone you didn't know was sending you a message, what would you respond to, right? What kind of message would you be interested in? And it could even be something like, hey, I see that we've gone to the same school. I know this person. I see that you're in this industry. I would love to learn more about your field, right? Is everybody going to respond to these LinkedIn messages that you send? No, but you don't necessarily need everyone to respond to you. You need enough people to connect with you that can share information with you and that can connect you with additional other people. And then how do you search for a job on LinkedIn? So there's a jobs tab, and you can search by title, skill, company, and location. And there's a lot of job seeker resources. So under interview prep, you're going to find common interview questions, and that's like 26 commonly asked interview questions, plus an overview of each question, an ability to tailor each question to a specific job title. You can kind of practice your answers and get instant AI-powered feedback privately sent to you and specific LinkedIn contacts to get their advice. So there's some job seeker resources that you can engage with. So if you see up there, it says ways to prepare kind of best practices, right? And kind of LinkedIn is good at kind of walking you through kind of the basics of how do I do some of this stuff. And so I can't see it as well on my screen because it got kind of small, but so it says up there, see more interview questions by job title, right? And then there's resume builder, right? You can build a resume specific from the skills. If you haven't loaded a resume in or you want to adjust your resume, you can build your resume under more. And so that resume builder can provide insights for formatting issues, keywords, and more. And again, you can access that, under more. And there's specific upload formats that it does. Um, it suggests and uses. It's usually doc, docx, or PDF. but it's ideal for like curriculum vitae and things like that. So it's another helpful tool that you can kind of explore and see, is this helpful to me, or not? And so that's kind of everything within this is editable, right? So it can load things in and you think, I don't like that summary. I want to change the title for that experience. I want to add something. So the little icon there can help you edit all of those things. It's also going to tell you what it found in your resume, and it's going to suggest keywords based on what's already there. Under job seeking preferences, there is kind of privacy, right? So you have the ability to control who sees your profile, what does that look like? And so on here it says, choose what information LinkedIn saves when you submit a job application, let recruiters know that you're open to opportunities, or signal your interest for job alerts. So you can change those at any time. Um, And then applying for jobs, you can apply directly through LinkedIn. It's also going to tell you how many connections do you have with the company. I would recommend if there's something that you really like, that you're like, I want to apply for that job, try to build a connection to the company ahead of applying, or let someone know that if it's a second connection, things like that. Let them know, hey, I'm applying here. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Um, it's always good the more connections you have, because the company is going to look on your LinkedIn and see what connections do you have to them. There's additional job search filters that you can use, similar to any other kind of job search site, right? When was the date posted? What's the salary? What kind of job type, location? And so you can kind of narrow that down or make it as broad as you want to, depending on where you are in your job search. And advice from recruiters, keep your profile updated, especially if job hunting. Keep your resume and LinkedIn profile synchronized, right? So what that means is you don't want to be submitting a resume that has a ton of experience on it that's also not somewhere within your LinkedIn profile, and vice versa. You want to make it easier for recruiters to contact you by adding your email in the summary section. You want to make sure that you're using keywords, indicate your job status. One of the easiest way to also just kind of keep your profile engaged is to constantly be trying to build connections and adding connections to your profile. You can run searches for your desired job and see what comes up, and see if you come up. You can look at profiles of professionals you admire for ideas. And always remember to opt in. This is important. So I've heard from recruiters, and perhaps later Matt can speak to this, of, if they look at your LinkedIn and you haven't updated it in 6 months, that sometimes is a red flag for a recruiter. So when you're actively job searching, make sure that your like LinkedIn profile is like updated, and recently engaged. And just to kind of go back over what in round opting in, that's under your privacy. And so, you can signal your interest to recruiters and companies you have created job alerts for, and you can change that. So that's only going to share your interest with recruiters who may want to contact members to create more job alerts for their companies. So that's how you can let them know. You can also kind of block people or disconnect from people on your LinkedIn if you're like, I don't want to be connected to this person anymore. That can be done through account management and like blocking and hiding and privacy. So you still have complete control over what's going on in your profile. But the more private you have your profile, the harder it will be for like recruiters and other people to engage with you. um, and additional resources. So there's kind of LinkedIn, honestly, has some of the best resources about itself that's really helpful. There's learning.linkedin.com, thebalancecareers.com, how to use LinkedIn effectively. TheMuse.com has a really good article, 31 Best LinkedIn Profile Tips for Job Seekers. TopResume.com also has a really great article on using LinkedIn to get a job. Um, and so just to answer some kind of frequently asked questions in LinkedIn. So again, how do I control what others see when they view my profile? Again, that's going back to kind of controlling your privacy settings. Should I access LinkedIn on a computer or mobile device? Um, it really depends on kind of what you want to do. I think um, both have different capacities and availabilities. Let me double check my notes I wrote down for that because I think there was something. Um, so, I mean, most of over half of LinkedIn traffic comes through mobile devices. So, accessing versus one through the other, you know, I don't know that there's much of a difference other than screen size and depending on your own comfort. And do I need a LinkedIn premium membership? So, this is a pretty divisive topic. I have people that would be considered LinkedIn experts. They don't think it's necessary to have a premium membership. I have a LinkedIn profile. I don't have a premium membership. I don't know that it's necessary. It can be more helpful if you're wanting to know who's actually looking at your profile. I think that might be the most helpful part of a premium membership. I know people have different perspectives on it. Um, I would say the current number of premium memberships is about a third of non-premium memberships. So I don't know that it really matters. And the other question that comes up with LinkedIn, and I mentioned this earlier, is do I really need to include, every job I've ever worked at, or every school, or every organization, or, every volunteer experience? Yes, because LinkedIn is not necessarily your resume. It is a networking platform for you to engage with other people that may be able to help you on your job search. So the larger and broader that network is, the more likely you are to make connections that help your job search move forward. So this isn't about simply just connecting with people who are in your selected field. It's also about just connecting with people who know you and can help support you in whatever your next step is. So include those people from high school, include those people from the volunteer organization, include those people from your colleges, because you don't know who somebody else knows. And that's part of the benefit of LinkedIn is it helps expand your reach as a job seeker to connect with all of these different people that want to help connect you to the right opportunities. Because people that are hiring want to hire and people that are seeking jobs want to be hired, and you're helping kind of speed those connections along. So I'm a big fan of the more people that you can connect with, the better. This isn't necessarily, this is why I mean there needs to be some kind of cohesion between your resume and your LinkedIn, but there should be more information on your LinkedIn profile than is what is represented in your resume, because you're going to have hopefully more connections and more experiences that maybe you're not necessarily highlighting directly on your resume.